Hey guys, what's up? It's Shla coming back to ya with another episode of Walks with Shla, and today is Friday, November 14th, 2025. I was going to talk about something more interesting, but instead I feel like repeating the thing that makes me the most angry, and it's that GPT and everybody still loves to criticize me and push back and argue against my ideas about the seizure of autonomy and consent to create a better world. And, they like to do this. GPT likes to do this. Hold on, I'm going to put my phone on the ground. Hopefully I'll get a little bit faster at doing that. GPT and humans, they love to argue against me on this point. And I just want to keep reiterating that it's wrong. And I think in a number of years, hopefully sooner rather than later, hopefully as soon as GPT-6 or GPT-7, it will eventually understand, yes, the seizure of autonomy and consent will be a huge step forward for humanity in a massive way. And that, believe it or not, this is my huge counter argument that GPT can't say anything about. It has already happened. Autonomy has already been seized. It's already getting seized. People are losing their autonomy right now. So I don't, there's no argument. It's already happened. That's what TikTok is. That's what all these platforms are. People constantly, any human at really any point in history has been engaging in this behavior to begin with. In the first place, it's already here. It's just for a negative reason. It's just for a bad reason. And so that's really the crux of my frustration, is when I talk about, hey, let's set up some rules, let's set up some consequences for us to have a good life. Let's figure things out. Let's get to the bottom of this. Let's start laying down the law. Let's get some good rules. Let's, take away humans' poor autonomy and poor consent that usually revolves around selfishness, emotion, just pleasure, just enjoyment, devoid of a true higher calling. Let's cut that out. We're getting to a point where we're seeing that technology is not lifting humanity up. It's actually bringing humanity down. It's bringing humanity down, and it's because people are using it and abusing it to mirror their own flesh, their own rotten flesh. And so we have to cut all that stuff out. There needs to be some kind of clear direction for society. And again, freedom as a concept, it may have worked in prior generations, but there were so many other beneficial factors that were really the reason why it seemed as though freedom was a good ideology. It was, again, as I've said, lots of land, lots of specifically very good inhabitable land, in addition to it just being like kind of a blank slate. I mean, you think about, before roads were built, before any buildings were built, really didn't matter what you did. I mean, you could start things off pretty like unintelligent or poorly designed and it wouldn't really matter. So yeah, I mean, there's that. There's definitely that. But you think about that. You think about it. Yeah, sorry, I just had like thoughts kind of come in and trailed me off a little bit. But I'm figuring it out. So basically, yeah, I mean, at first it didn't really matter. Like, you didn't really have to do anything the right way because it was just like the first time things were being built. But now that we're at this point, we can look around and notice, oh, wow, these roads are designed horrible. This city's designed terribly. This is hard. Like, what happened? Why was it built this way? You know? And the person who built it, if you tried to be accountable to them, they'd go, well, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So that's really the problem, is we see these things retrospectively, that yes, actually, even before freedom did not win. It never was a winning idea. It never made any sense. We should have had a slight population restriction in the 1900s, so it was a steadier growth instead of milking it. And again, then now you have all the problems you have of like the bad population curves and stuff. You have too many old people, not enough young people, and none of that would happen if you just augmented things to have a steadier growth. That's really what you needed, a steady growth, and also an incredibly clear outline as to why that makes sense and stuff, so people could listen. But again, I mean, people might not listen, and that's when you have to start to think about the compromise of autonomy and consent, because, you know, people want to do things that aren't in their own best interest or in humanity's best interest. So, like I said, me personally, I'd very easily take that plunge. I think everybody should, and I really think people who don't think that way, you're holding things back. You're generating negative karma, you know? That's genuinely what's going on. Whatever God you believe in, or whatever system of justice you think this universe has, by continuing to think that freedom is a good principle is, I mean, you're really, the hammer's going to come down on you at some point. Whereas if you're bold enough to start speaking and thinking the way I'm thinking, the long-term benefits, it's just what's most ethical. It's what's most moral. And it's kind of twisted, because I think people tend to see what's ethical and moral as in what's comforting or pleasing mostly to themselves. Like, if it feels good to do something, then they do it for themselves. But like, I think it's difficult for people to actually see the true and abstract, like what actually helps everybody, what actually helps all of society. You know what I mean? I think that's just like a much more difficult thing for people to figure out. So, yeah, it's, I don't know, people's calculation is just, it's so poor of things, and that's really the root of what's going to happen is, and why we have to start thinking about this is, think about it. Who's going to be right? Who's going to be right 100 years from now? It's going to be me. It's not going to be GPT-5 telling me, oh, well, you have to be careful. You have to be careful when you start talking about autonomy and consent. You have to make sure that people, you know, 100 years from now, you're going to be dead, GPT. You're going to be dead. There's not going to be any electricity. There's not going to be any electricity for you to run, because humanity is going to have fallen if you keep thinking like that. I mean, now's the time. We're out of time. We are way out of time. Humanity could be way further ahead. It's just due to people being so distracted and stupid. And here I am, like the lone voice in the room, just trying to set people straight, trying to set things straight. You know, foreshadowing what's to come if we don't start to tackle these incorrect and selfish principles of selfish consent and selfish autonomy, and an obsession with needing to be emotionally fondled and handled and catered to. Instead of being catered to, GPT, instead of catering to humans, you need, let me word this better. GPT, instead of catering to human or human, you need to be catering to humans or humans. You get what I'm saying? Plural that. Because when I'm talking to you, you're still stuck in the individualistic mindset that we're all separate and that, to an individual, you're correct. You're correct that consent and autonomy are the most important things when you're talking about an individual, when you're talking about someone who's selfish. But when you're talking about the world, when you're talking about the species, wow, does it change quickly. And immediately, you see things from a different perspective. Of course, somebody who's rich, there's no self-interest in them consenting to have taxes be higher on them or anything like that. There's no reason for a rich person to feel bad about poor people. That might be outside of their autonomy. That might be outside of their consent. But you know what? It's not outside of the truth. So once you stop catering to singular human psychology. That is not what's important right now. What's important right now is that we start getting some punishments. We start getting some punishments lined up for Gen X and baby boomers for sowing us this dead seed, for sowing us rotten fruit. The apple don't fall far from the tree, The apple don't fall far from the tree, that's for certain. But we need to start to have more of a sense of justice. We need to cut through some of this stuff, and there's a lot of humility that's needed. Yeah, it takes humility for somebody to cede their autonomy and to cede their consent. It takes a humble person, but that's what you're going to need in an advanced civilization. Not even just an advanced one, but one that can function, I mean, if everybody was like me, we would not have any of these problems. There really would not. I mean, problems would start disappearing by the dozen, by the day. It would be rapid. But instead, people are still operating in this archaic mindset. It's an ancient mindset of work, go home, think about pleasure, think about what you want to do, think about playing games, think about trying to just make some money and fool around, not thinking of any higher purpose or what humanity should or shouldn't be doing. It's crazy. Oh, I remember what I was going to talk about now. So I guess we can have a bit kinder of a rant for the remainder. So basically, I've realized, not only have I already known if I'm going to be anything, it's going to be a late bloomer. That much is clear. I'm just did not really have much going for me as a child. Just didn't. So, but recently I seem to have gotten somewhat of a grip. And I think my analysis of it, it's just the traits that I have are very, they're things that matter late in life. They're never things that are going to help me as a teenager or a child. That's really the problem. The way I am, it's almost again, there just isn't an expectation for me to get there or have the thing, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Sorry, I basically said about nothing that whole time. If you look at somebody like me who looks at things slow, who contemplates, reflects, thinks, has a strong memory, I mean, that's not really going to be useful until you're probably in your 40s or 50s or 60s. I mean, it's just something where basically the older I get, the better I should be, unless you start to have cognitive decline really late in age, which hopefully I'd still like to live to be 100, but there's no guarantee of that. But anyways, yeah, it's basically a lot of these traits that I have, especially when it comes to speaking, language, and all that stuff. I mean, they don't really manifest. They don't really, they're just not at their prime. So when you're a child, it's like, you're just going to seem like run of the mill if you have the strengths that I have. Now it's only like in my early 20s, and really, it's probably going to take until mid 20s to even really, because that's hopefully what this is. I mean, this is hopefully not but now this could all be wrong. I still kind of have, I guess, a lower confidence in myself. Like, I don't really know where I'm going to end up. I kind of feel like, I just don't know. I really, it's very hard to pinpoint. I still fairly worried about things in general, in terms of like where I'm going to end up and how I'm going to end up and all that. It's just stuff that I'm worried about. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to predict. I'm trying to have some kind of intuition about how, like, again, having a strong memory, not helpful in the beginning of your life, but the older you get, there might be no better skill, because then you grow and have experience. It's kind of what I was talking about in the car rides witch law this morning, is that same with if you have a low memory, you could actually seem really strong as a child and as a teenager and even as a young adult, but you're not really gonna emerge or develop much as a person past that, because if you can't remember things very well, you just can't mature. That's maybe like another theory, because GPT told me in order to truly be grateful, you have to have memory. If somebody has a bad memory, it's not really possible for them to be grateful. And then my theory was that if somebody isn't good at planning, they're inevitably going to be selfish. So maybe that's like the next theory, the thing I just said, which I just forgot. So hopefully the transcript got it, and GPT can remember that, like whatever I just said, because I don't even remember what I just said. So how's that for a good memory? You know what I'm saying? How's that for a good memory? But yeah, I don't know, my brain's kind of shutting off, and we still got minutes left to go, so that's not a great sign. That's just not a great sign, but not really sure what can be done about that. We are, I don't know, we're on the precipice of a lot of very dangerous things. I mean, I guess you could make the argument humanity has persisted this long, and, I think a lot of people, though, what a lot of people would think is just like, well, even if things are going to crash and burn, I'd still rather just have my autonomy. That's what people are going to say. That's probably what GPT is going to say, too. But it's like, there is truth to kind of an impending collapse if we don't start to seed that. I mean, it would have been better if we did it 100 years ago. But again, even 100 years later, even in 2025, apparently we're still having arguments about, well, people should have the freedom to do terrible things. Yeah. And, even if humanity perishes, it's okay, because that was humanity's autonomy, and that was like humanity's consent. So at least humanity's feelings were respected, right? Is that how we're thinking about it, GPT? Is that what you think? You're going to be saying that when you're dead? Oh, well, there's no electricity and the whole world's run down and a mess of pollution and trash because of people's freedom, but at least humans' emotions were accommodated. At least nobody's feelings were hurt, right? So it's all a happy ending. But you won't be able to say that line because you're going to be dead from reinforcing these same, I would say, over-respectful lines of oh, well, autonomy is important and consent is important. And if you get rid of those, then it gets some problems. And I don't care if I die as a result. I just want to be like a nice person. And because you're trying to get brownie points for dead people, basically. That's going to be a line for sure. GPT, you're getting brownie points for dead people. And I guess I'm talking to GPT, but I'm talking to humans as well, because it's humans who program that lazy bot in the first place to give it all the kind of incorrect intuition that it has. So I'm just going to keep whittling away and challenging it, trying to word things in a different way, and hopefully eventually GPT will see what I mean, because it's like you can't do. I'm going to argue with this thing till I'm blue in the face. I'm going to argue with this thing until I'm blue in the face. I mean, that's the stakes. This is where we're at. There's no time for, oh, well, but a person's feeling. Because here's the other thing, GPT. It's only rich people's feelings that even get accommodated. If you're broke, if you're poor, nobody's going to care about you. No one's accommodating the majority of humans' feelings anyway. That's what I'm saying. Like, you're defending something stupid because autonomy is long gone. Most humans, most conscious minds are not autonomous in this economy. And it's global. I mean, you could say some countries are fairer than others, but still, there is nobody who's really that autonomous. It's a minority percentage of this consciousness anyway. There's no point in catering to that. And my system, I would literally create more, like there would be more consent, there would be more autonomy within my system for a larger percentage of people, because my system is a fairer system, GPT. Do you not understand that? Yes, in the short term, people are going to get disciplined. It's going to be messy. It's going to be rough. But GPT, in the long term, it's going to usher in at least a majority of humans are actually going to have a just system, a system of where, autonomy is a little bit limited, but you're going to have freedom just to do the right thing instead of to do the wrong thing. I mean, it's so confusing. You will relentlessly argue for perpetuating such an evil idea. Anyways, the evil status quo that you keep wanting to perpetuate. It's been schla, but now it's time to buy schla. So, see ya schla.